And we're live.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'm Chris. This is Lee.
How you doing?
From Avocado Property, and we've got a solicitor in a locked office that we're going to
can't go out. Nowhere to run.
We're not going to grill you, Peter. But this is Peter Ambrose, who's the managing director of the partnership here in Guildford, big firm of solicitors, and we wanted to come on, have a frank chat. A lot of us that are in the industry at the moment, and this is particularly for estate agents as well. Not many of us really get a chance to have a proper frank chat with a solicitor. I think from this point onwards, no holds barred. So I'm gonna jump straight in. I think a lot of people, agents and clients alike, there's a lot of people that have moved this year and tried to move this year, and we all know there's various sort of reasons and complications that there have been that have made the process a lot longer. But I guess the big question that I have been asked a couple of times since we mentioned that we were going to be coming on live and having a good live broadcast chat is the process. It is taking a lot longer at the moment, isn't it, per case? So I guess an easy question is, why is it taking so long?
Why is it taking so long? It's a very fair question, and one we get asked a lot, actually. People always go back to about 20 years ago, and they say, before computers and everything was paperless, it was so much quicker. And that's a really good point. Why is it now, and it wasn't really up until the last couple of weeks, it was taking up to 22 weeks to get a deal through. Whereas in the past, if you remember back to these good old days, 6 to 8 weeks. Yeah, crack it through and so forth. Why is it, with all these computers and all this technology, why is it taking so long? Frankly, it takes so long because it's got much more difficult. You've got far more problems coming up, whether it's mortgage lenders, whether it's lawyers. Lawyers have got far more risk to contend with, and society's got more tricky. In the nicest possible way. You make a single mistake now and people are going to honour you, and what that does, it drives paranoia. So in the past there was much more a philosophy, well, it might go wrong but it'll probably be okay. Now it's like, it's going to go wrong, where is it going to go wrong? And we've got a lot of people breathing down our necks, whether it's the mortgage lenders, whether it's clients, whether it's people estate agents. Yes, it is, absolutely, because they're under pressure and they're more accountable than now. Because why? Because clients are saying to our estate agents, why is this taking so long? And there's a lot more that can go wrong now, and risks are far higher. We've got things today that we never even dreamed of. You've got things like stamp duty. You've got fraud, you've got mortgage offers taking longer, you've got local authorities in certain areas taking an inordinate amount of time.
The searches,
You've got searches, you've got managing agents where we need more information. If you look, if you go back 3-4 years, the idea of cladding being a problem was never there. Since Grenfell, suddenly we've got this huge, serious problem with a couple of 100,000 flats that can't be sold. We didn't have that problem 4 or 5 years ago.
No, quite, and that's taken a long time in itself. So I've got a couple of cases at the moment that have got cladding issues with apartments. So.
I think we all have, haven't we? All have issues.
And there are new issues that come up, and things like fraud. What does fraud gums up things because it takes longer, because we've got to check, we've got to ID people. That takes longer. Before, someone would walk in, want to sell a house, good luck.
Simple as that.
It'd be fine. Now, IDs. For example, most properties that we deal with, there are donors involved. The bank of mum and dad. Really clear. The hoops we have to jump through for the regulator, but also for the lenders, to make sure we know where this money is coming from. Deals are just much more complicated. There's no such thing as a simple deal anymore.
No, and I think, and that's an absolutely fair answer, and obviously the right answer as well. But I think, not that I would know, because I'm not a solicitor, am I? But yeah, I've been an agent for 22 years or so now, and I think it's very easy for an estate agent's perspective, because we play the go-between, or try and play the go-between between the seller, the lawyer, the buyer, their lawyer, and then the lawyer to the lawyer, trying to essentially speed things up. But probably a lot of the time we're probably getting in the way, because we're phoning you saying, can I have an update, please? And literally your hearts must just sink when it's us on the phone, because we're obviously as proactive as we can be. And people are pointing, and I know they are pointing their fingers at conveyancers and solicitors, saying, well, why can't you be as proactive?
And that's one thing we say. We hear a lot of people say to us, I need a proactive lawyer. And agents will say to us, I would say, what's your ideal lawyer look like? And they go, proactive. And then my next question is, what does that look like? And that's the difficulty of this. Because what is a proactive lawyer? Someone that, and one of the favorite expressions you hear lawyers say is, okay, I don't have a crystal ball. And if you've not had a lawyer say that to you so far, you will do it.
Exactly. We say to our clients all the time, don't we? Yeah, it's.
Well, I had some. I mean, case in point. I had someone complain on Friday night. Came in over our portal and said, "I'm really upset because no one can tell me how long it's going to take." And we had said, of course, go and ask the agent. And then the client says, "How dare you suggest that I should ask the agent? You should know as lawyers." I said, "The problem is we're selling. Someone else is buying. We have no idea of their position. Right. We don't know what problems are going to come up. And believe me, there will be problems. But what we do know is that on average, as a firm, we are getting deals done in about 13 weeks. And with that, the client went, "Oh, that's good, as long as I know."
Yeah, it's just.
And I think that's the key thing, isn't it? Yeah. It's from a buyer and seller's perspective, it's not knowing. I mean, obviously, from your perspective and from our perspective, we can never give an exact time scale. You know, we can never give an exact time scale as to how long it's going to take us to sell the property, and we can never give an exact same process in terms of how the after sale is going. It's going on averages, and we all remember when, you know, going back a couple of years, the average was, you know, 8 to 12 weeks, you know, for argument's sake, from start to finish. Now, obviously, you know, with everything that's happened in the last, 15, 18 months, it's gone up. And
I know
the Law Society was saying, what, 20 weeks,
24, it was getting up to 24 weeks this year. I mean, that is scary. If you build in the seek time to find a place, 6 months to buy a house.
And I think from a general public's perspective, not knowing is the key thing. It's not knowing how, or when they do know, it's okay, but why?
Why does it take so long?
Why is it now taking us 4 months? Why is it taking us 5 months?
Some of it is one of the biggest problems you've got is caseloads. Yeah, people don't like to talk about it. It's a bit of a dirty secret. Okay, but I will talk about it. Okay, because, and this is the problem. Law firms. How do I put this politely? They're not at the front of the queue when it comes to competing with other people. The way law firms compete is they cut their prices. Okay, and I'm not saying agents do that. But
it's just true.
So what happens is they reduce their prices. They allow their fees to come down. Conveyancing is too cheap right now. Okay, you look at average fees. So typically, people think £700 or £800 is more than that. The problem with that is because fees are coming down, caseloads go up. Okay,
and they have to balance it out.
And they have to balance it up. Now, the record, I heard a new record today. I interviewed a candidate, new record. I'm very pleased with myself. Doing remortgage work. She was managing 450 cases.
Wow.
450.
That's ridiculous.
That is bonkers. My previous record was I had someone I interviewed the other day was about 220.
Wow.
And those were transactions, in other words, buying and selling. I did have someone started with me here. There was 3 of them in a team, and they were running 400 cases between 3 of them.
Wow.
And she was a junior assistant. And this is the problem. And so when you look at it, so if you look at your average agent, okay, how many cases would you typically be running?
Oh, probably 20.
20? Yeah, 20.
15, 20.
15, 20. Because any more than that, look what happens. You can't keep on top. You can't.
Exactly. Our level of service will drop.
It will drop.
It will drop.
So you imagine your average lawyer, most of them pretty average, 150? 150 cases by themselves with no computer systems. They don't have computer systems.
It must have about 30 seconds a day per case.
Exactly. So then you say, well, why does it take so long? We'll think about it.
And then, of course, on that, from what you're saying there is, they get phone calls from us. They get phone calls from their clients. Phone calls from the other sides as well. And all of a sudden, that then just elongates
phone calls
the amount of time that they can. They can actually
phone calls. So you asked earlier. The last thing you want is an agent calling up. The problem with a phone call is you've got to work out who it is. You've got to switch gears. You're in the middle of something. So chances are you'll get a situation where you go, I'm not going to take that call because I've got an agent that's going to. So do I either work out how I'm going to respond to this client because I've got to get answers, or to take a call, stop, change gears, pull the file off the shelf. So don't forget, it's all paper based. If anyone thinks this is not a paper based industry, all right, they're kidding themselves. It is 100% paper based. It's just too much inertia. So they've got to stop doing that, and then they have to go over and go, right, what was that case? I can't remember. It's that. Chances are they're running the case by themselves.
And we've had it plenty of times, haven't we, over the past, where you phone up a solicitor and it's like, just want to get an update from Mr. and Mrs. X. And they go, I can't quite remember. Hang on, let me grab the file. And literally, they put you on hold, or they'll call you back 5 minutes later. They've got the file and they're reading through the file. And 9 times out of 10, they don't actually read everything through the file. It's just literally the last couple of pages in there. I've got that. But they, forget to go.
Well, there's no information. Don't forget, they're not storing any information. It's all in paper. So what they're doing is they're relying on a few emails, a few post-it notes if you're lucky, I mean, this is how it really works, and it's quite shocking. I recruited someone here from a competitor firm here, and I won't name them, but they are in Guildford. And they said it was quite dodgy because we had to climb up the shelves to get to the files, and it was a bit of a health and safety issue. Seriously, people are climbing up shelves to get to files.
And this is what people don't seem to realise. I think, and to be fair, I'm going to learn a lot from this tonight as well, because it's not very often that, as estate agents, we're sitting here in the solicitor's office, having these conversations, off camera or on camera, quite frankly. But I think the point is we wanted to sort of put to rest some of our own thoughts and opinions as to what's really going on, and get it from the horse's mouth, so to speak, because it's very easy at the moment, and I've done it myself, with a lot of transactions I've had this year that have taken just an extraordinary amount of time, where you've got the seller, the buyer, and the agent saying, oh, it's the lawyers, and okay, to a certain point it may well be, but it's a case of it's making people realise why.
I think if you're going to point the finger at someone, and I don't do blame, but you've got to look at people who are running law firms. It's not the conveyancer. I do get upset and quite defensive of people that have a go at lawyers as individuals. Yeah, because they're doing their best. The problem is, okay, they're law firm owners, and I speak as a law firm owner, have not invested in systems and processes. I had a candidate the other day. Sorry to go on about candidates, but it gives you an idea of the outside world. Okay, and she went, we had to share computers. Wow,
how was
share
that
computers? I don't know. But to me, the idea of saying I really want to do an email, only I can't because I can't get access to that machine. It's fairly common for people to share software licenses. Oh, are you using the system? Well, therefore I can't. That's not uncommon. Why? Because the owners don't want to pay for it.
Of course.
Why do they want to pay for it? Because they don't charge enough. It comes back to this. They don't charge enough. Why? Because they can't compete. And then they get
value for money, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, they get this sob story from the owners of law firms. And they go, oh, it's just so unfair. Agents get paid so much. We get paid so little. Yeah. And this is the problem in that they don't charge enough. So therefore, they can't afford to invest in hardware, in software. So their guys are then running around with their paper files. And that's why they're doing it. Why do they have paper files? Because they're cheap.
So, in your opinion, what is it that solicitors, conveyancers can do to speed up the process? What would make things that bit quicker? No, we're not talking about, let's reduce it by 10 weeks. But if from a buyer's perspective, if you can type a deal today and know, okay, well, at the moment, the Law Society is saying 20 weeks or 22 weeks, or it might come down since then, and we're talking an average of 12 weeks. How do we get it to 10? How do we get it to potentially 8 if that's possible?
Okay, here's the harsh reality, okay? Doing it the way they're doing at the moment, they can't. They really can't. We put in a system last year when we went remote working. We never did remote working. We're paperless, but we never were remote. And what we would do is we would send our clients documents through our portal that were electronic, and then clients would print them, sign them, and send them back, and scan them back. And it was fantastic. Didn't think anything of it. During the lockdown, people were going, oh, I haven't got a printer. And we suddenly went, oh, God, we didn't realise that. We didn't realise they go to the office, print it out, and scan it. And that's what they were doing. So we're like, okay. So we switched over to using online forms. Okay, PDFs. Really cheap. Took us a week to do it. We converted everything to a PDF, and we said fill it all in, and did that. And we reduced the time for onboarding from 16 days to 6. We knocked 10 days out of it straight away.
Okay.
So that was like, well, so that's what we did. We made the forms online. Now, anyone can do that, which is a bit annoying because all you've got to do, even if you're still using email, which majority of people are, you can still email them a form and say, could you fill it in and then return it? So that's where I say we knocked 10 days out of it, just that alone. But that was, so you can save the stuff. Get the paperwork sent out to the client quicker. Don't sit there waiting. The other thing is what lawyers will do quite often is they'll wait till they've got every single thing ready before, for example, if you're sending out a contract pack. There's little tricks that you can do. Send out the title, send out the contract early.
So you can do that.
Get it going.
You can do that at the point you go on the market, can't you?
You could do it if you're instructed.
Right.
But then what you could do, it's difficult though. Everyone goes, oh, what lawyers should do or what clients should do is instruct a lawyer the minute you go on the market. We're an agency, people don't want to do that.
Yeah, quite right.
But there's this lovely theory. It's like, get a lawyer instructed, do it straight away. Yeah, okay, they're not going to do it. Why? Well, we might not sell it. It might cost me, whatever. Yeah. What I think people can do, and this might be a bit controversial, is be a bit more careful with their choice of lawyers.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah. Like, everyone goes, oh, no one ever buys on price. Who are they kidding? Yeah, they always go, oh, well, everyone gets the middle price. I saw something yesterday. Oh, Tom, and then they don't, right? No. They want the cheapest they can get away with.
They do, typically speaking, they do.
They do.
It's an expensive process.
Why would you spend more
there? Then why wouldn't you?
And let's face it, if all lawyers are rubbish, well, why don't you go for the cheapest? Yeah, I mean, that's the thing.
You'll get what you pay for.
Yeah, and you do. But the problem is people don't understand what the difference is in paying for it.
So we've just had a question come in from Carla Sanders. Do you think the era of taking a view on conveyancing will ever come back?
No, it's gone.
gone completely. Simple as that.
The problem is they can't, because you've got the mortgage lenders.
Yeah.
And it's the reason why they don't, A, you've got the mortgage lenders, B, clients will sue. And they really do. I mean, you wouldn't believe some of the issues that we have. We've got people coming to us about broken shower doors, dirty carpets, leaky windows, all this kind of stuff. And people say, well, that's not a legal problem. No, but it rests at our door. So, taking a view, unfortunately, we wish we could.
It's an estate agent's one of estate agent's favourite line. What do you
take a view?
Get them take a view on it, can't you?
Yeah, or get insurance.
Yeah.
Indemnity
insurance.
You love indemnity policies, don't you?
You can only insure against risk. Can I just tell you that, guys? All right, it can only be a risk. Okay, not something.
Not anything.
Not anything. You know.
Yeah. No.
Fair enough. That's fair comment. So we've got a couple more questions come in. A couple from my clients here. From Helen. Basically, communication-wise, how often can you expect to hear from a solicitor, and how often should you chase them?
Okay, why is it that people think you have to chase lawyers? All right, you shouldn't have to chase a lawyer. Okay, you really shouldn't, but people do.
Of course,
they don't chase us because of the way we set up the business. So, pragmatically, okay, we go to our clients every week. Okay, so every week we do an update. Yeah, and we do that. Okay, that's really unusual, and people need to understand that. Okay, is that really rare that happens, and in fact, how often should you check? I mean, every couple of weeks, if you hadn't heard something, but not every. I mean, I read something the other day. You should chase every day. Absolute nonsense.
No, I saw that as well.
I think a couple of weeks. If you haven't heard anything for a couple of weeks, but also if you have a little bit of an understanding, there is this theory at the moment that everyone says what the public needs is education on the conveyancing process, and I say no. Okay, because people aren't interested. They don't give us stuff. They want to buy a house. Okay, but if you get to understand, and we always talk about the roller coaster.
Yeah.
Okay, whereby it gets busy, it gets quiet, it gets busy, it gets quiet. There's a lot of times, and this is what I think people do need to understand, is where there really is nothing happening. And so if you chase when there's nothing happening, then you're not going to get an answer.
And also at the same time, things obviously do take time. I mean, I know that I'm one of the most impatient people in the whole wide world, especially when buying a house. Right. Way beside you when I moved. But
sorry, we're busy.
Don't
say no.
At the same time, what I think a lot of people don't necessarily realise is that you're relying on a lot of other third parties. You're relying on local authorities, mortgage lenders, and various others as well.
Management companies.
And that's what I think if people knew. So, for example, I had someone today getting quite angry with me. They were saying, it's been 3 weeks since I instructed you and you still haven't heard from the other side. Now, we're buying. Okay. So when you buy, if you think of it as a game of tennis, okay, which side of the net, you have to know which side of the net it's on. Yeah. So this one, they said to us, it is unacceptable that the sellers haven't been in touch yet. You need to do something about it. Well, with all the best will in the world, I said, well, we would, and we chased them the other side, but we've also spoken to the estate agent because that's actually the agent's job.
Absolutely.
If we haven't heard anything from a seller in 3 weeks, we're doing nothing because there's nothing we can do. And this is, again, talk about taking a view. The problem that we have is because we are relying 100% on what the seller tells us, we have to do that.
Yeah.
And this is the problem. So that if the seller's slow or if we're waiting on them, there's nothing we can do about it. And we do have people saying, well, why don't you just do this yourself? Because believe me, if we get it wrong, supposing we say, oh, don't worry, we'll be all right. We'll take a view. Yeah. And then, of course, it turns out to be wrong. Our clients, rightly so, they will come back to us and then they'll go, well, why did you do that? And we will say, well, because we were waiting for the sellers. They didn't do anything. So we cracked on and got the information ourselves.
Yeah.
And they'll go, well, it was wrong. And you go, well, yeah. So we can't rely on it. And that is the problem. I had someone the other day, we were buying and we completed and it's all gone horribly wrong actually because the sellers didn't disclose some information and our client said, well, you should have gone out and got that information. We were like, yeah, but we have to rely on what the seller tells us.
Of course you do.
And that was the problem because supposing we got it and it was wrong, then we have no one, and it sounds awful, we have no one to counter sue. And that's a really horrible indictment of where we are today.
Yeah.
But that is the harsh reality. Because when people come after us and say, you missed this, you didn't do that, we have to be able to say, well, I mean, if we got it wrong, yeah, hands up.
Mm-hmm.
But if we didn't get it wrong, and we, as in this case, where we relied on the seller, 100%, the seller said there was nothing going on that, we went, well, that's what they told us.
So, I mean, in your experience, would you, where do you think the problem lies? Is it more that, obviously, as you said there, you're obviously reliant on the information coming through from the sellers. So is it more that the sellers sometimes aren't quick enough to get that information to you?
They're very,
because there's always a blame from a conveyancing perspective, isn't there? That
waiting for the forms.
Yeah, we wait for this, we wait for that. But I mean, I had a case, I've been chasing a couple of days ago, and my seller hadn't filled in the seller's form, and the solicitor's like, well, I can't do anything until it comes through, and it's like, okay, have you chased it? She said, yeah, I've chased it. And I spoke to my client, and he's like, well, I haven't heard anything from the solicitor. But they're both just sat there. He's not contacting the solicitor, and the solicitor's not contacting him. It's just,
it is about transparency, and people do talk. This is a real popular buzzword at the moment, transparency. Okay, which sounds great. Everyone knows exactly what's going on. It can bite you. And for example, we put all our inquiries on our portal. Fantastic. Only company in the whole country doing this. Fantastic. It's available. You can see it. What a brilliant innovation. Spoke to one of my lawyers this morning. She goes, I had to turn it off with one client because she was getting so aggressive about going back with these inquiries straight away every second. She goes, I didn't have a chance to catch up. So I was like, so transparency is great
to a point.
To a point. And this is the problem. So if people know what is going on, and this is where your choice of lawyer becomes so important. There aren't lawyers out there with magic wands going, no, I'm a special lawyer, I can get things done quickly. But if you've got the right lawyer who understands about how to tell people what's going on, how to share that information, at least you stand a chance of going, oh, well, this is where it's at.
Yeah. So, but also on that point, you're also going to need that seller to provide you everything that you need to get it done.
Exactly it.
And also the solicitor on the other end's got to be in a position to get everything done there and then.
It's many moving parts.
Yeah.
And that is the problem. And those moving parts, especially where it involves people having to fill in forms, because you know how long it takes you to get people to fill in forms, or to do stuff, or if they're just not cooperative. So, for example, if you're buying a house where you've got a co-freeholder, you've got two freeholders, and it's probably just a masonette or something that's been split into two, bloke upstairs, he just happens to live there, but he's also a freeholder, and you go, right, could you fill in all these forms? And he's like, nah. Yeah, just no. And they go, because we really want to buy it, and they really want to move, and everyone's doing that. And he goes, yeah, I'm really busy. I'm going on holiday, and
life to lead.
I don't care. And you go, yes, but if the boot was on the other foot, then you went, well, obviously I'd be very upset, but I don't care. And when you're dealing with humans, someone came into the office in London a few weeks ago. He was effing and blinding as he was coming in. I can't believe it. And I thought, but you're a co-freeholder. He was. No, can't believe I'm having to do this. Can't believe it's outrageous. And I thought, yeah, but you've taken a week to get here. Yeah. And that's the problem, is there's lots of moving parts. But I think if you want to speed it up, it's without getting into the finger pointing, whose fault is it? If we knew what was going on, that would be a huge difference. And it's when you don't know what's going on. So, for example, your client who hasn't returned the forms, what the lawyer should do is what we do. After 3 or 4 days, we haven't heard back, we ping back to the agent and go, just let you know, your client hasn't filled in any paperwork. Yeah. But that's because we're set up to do that. Yeah. But if you're not set up and if you're not organized as a business, because we have people, that's the other problem, that lawyers are jack of all trades, which they really shouldn't be. Okay. They're salesmen, they're networkers, they're financial people, they're stamp duty experts. Yeah. Yeah, they're communicators.
They should just be concentrating on one.
I think they should just do the law.
Yeah.
But most law firms aren't based that way.
So we've had a great question coming from Andrew. Are estate agents helpful with their chasing, or should lawyers be able to crack on?
Come on, be brutal on this one as well, because obviously, look,
do we chase too much?
Yeah, it depends on the agent.
Do we help or not?
Yeah, I'm going to say that. It depends on the agent. Some are really helpful. Yeah. Some are brilliant. We've got the agents we choose to work with are fantastic because they know when to get involved and when not to get involved, and that's a good agent. To be fair, most of the agents we deal with are like that. Yeah. So agents, can they be counterproductive? Absolutely, they can. We've had so many situations where clients have been wound up by an agent chasing. And then saying to the client, well, I've chased and they still answer the phone, they still don't know, and then they wind the client up. So yeah, I think certainly there are cases, but it's not as widespread as people think it is.
No, of course not.
But yeah, they can cause more trouble than they're worth sometimes.
No,
tiny people, and none that we work with because you love them.
No, absolutely, we love you too.
I think it really generally just comes down to managing people's expectations, doesn't it? From the outset.
That's critical.
I mean, as soon as I put a deal together, I typically will say to my client, not much will probably happen in the first 2 weeks, because it's a case of solicitors are going to get the forms out here, your solicitor's going to get forms out here, you're going to fill it out, you're going to send it, you're going to need to find a load of paperwork. It's probably up in the loft or in the back of the garage that you need to send back. Same as this client over here. So actually, if you don't hear anything in the first 2 weeks, don't think nothing's happening. It's just that they're doing their bit, they're doing that bit. It's really after about 2 weeks when, generally speaking, there's things start.
I think it is
once you've got everything come in.
I think if more agents did that, it would be very helpful. Just so that, and when the client panics, to say, well, you said that you've requested searches, but I haven't heard anything. Well, no, but you wouldn't, because it's going to be 2-3 weeks.
Exactly.
So it's not a surprise that you haven't heard anything. And yes, they won't have raised the inquiries, because they won't do that, because the best way to do it is when the searches come in, raise them all in one go. So don't worry about it. And I think that's the thing. There just needs more understanding given to clients from agents.
Yes, I was going to say, do you think that needs to come from us,
absolutely,
from a perspective of not like you said earlier on, in terms of clients knowing the whole ins and outs of the after sale process, but maybe what we were saying here is, okay, this is what happens, in the first 2 weeks, it's going to go quiet because X, Y, and Z is happening. And then typically speaking, searches will come back from 2 to 4 weeks. And then inquiries. And then there's going to be give people a bit of a timeline.
And even part of it. So, for example, with buyers, we find a lot of people say, like, agents do misunderstand, for example, when we report to our client. Okay. So a report is when we've got all the documents together and we've got all the title, we've got all the searches, and we produce what's called a report on title. And there's a big misunderstanding that says, oh, you've reported, we're all done.
And we're ready to exchange.
We're ready to exchange.
Let's get it all excited, money's coming in.
And actually, that's not true. What the report is the start. Because what we've done is we said, well, we found all these problems and this, that, and the other. And also, don't forget, the clients get this. They look at it and they go, oh my God, I had no idea there were so many issues. And in fact, now you mention, I've got all these questions to ask as well.
Exactly.
But there is this misunderstanding that to say, well, when I've got to these stages, and I think it's just these milestones that says,
I think a lot of it is misunderstanding from estate agents as well. And don't get me wrong, I'm not a conveyancer, I'm not a solicitor, I'm not a lawyer. I've been an agent for a long time. I've progressed thousands of sales over 22 years, as Lee has as well. But I think that the point is, and I see it a lot at the moment, where I get a call. I had one tail end last week where I've got an agent who is asking me for an update on the chain, my part of the chain, which I have no problem with whatsoever. But the person, and from the firm shall remain completely nameless, but it was bless him, it was a young guy, and but literally did not know about trying to progress a transaction and what parts were involved. And because when I asked him the questions, the poor chap panicked a little bit. And I think it's all very well for saying, from an agent's perspective, yes, we'll do the sales progression as well, which I do say to all of my clients, because we do stay involved from day dot to the day we hand over the keys. But I think a lot of time at the moment is that an agent, a relatively new estate agent, perhaps inexperienced one, is given a file and said, right, can you chase that?
Without actually really knowing what happens.
And I think even from agents like ourselves, from our perspective, we don't know absolutely the nitty gritty, because we've not progressed a transaction like you do. And
to be fair, why should you?
Well, yeah, exactly.
I think that's the other thing, and that's where each party does have a responsibility. So the lawyer does have a responsibility to say, for all sanity, this is where we're at right now. And I think you can't have it where people say, I'm not going to speak to you. Why is it that lawyers don't speak to agents? I'm not going to speak to you. It's like, well, no, you can't really do that, because actually, that it's only going to come around anyway, and you're not really helping your client, because all you're going to do by being silent, by being too busy, is you're going to increase stress.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it's only going to get worse. So you'll hear a common thing you hear is, if only I didn't have to speak to agents, I'd be able to get the job done. It's a fairly common thing that you hear from lawyers, and it's like, yeah, but what is your job? Is to support your client to get the best outcome for them. And that means part of it is
speaking to an agent,
keeping them calm and speaking to an agent. It's part of it.
Exactly.
So it is a bit frustrating when you hear that. But most of it comes down to caseload management. But that is the core problem there. And people seem to forget that. They just go, well, just work harder. It's like,
just work longer hours.
Longer hours. Yeah, and that's it.
Right enough hours in the day at the moment as it is.
Well, this is it, and that is a big problem, and we need to get to the heart of that. That's how you're going to make this faster, by the way. Yeah, reduce caseloads.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah,
but reducing caseloads, essentially, fees are going to have to go up.
That's right.
Time, aren't they?
Yeah.
So, but then
people don't think they can't do that, and also the way that work is distributed is a bit flawed as well, because you've got a very poor distribution model.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you've got lawyers that are getting work through third parties who are all taking their cut, then they need to take that money out of it. So one of the problems that we have, and people won't be aware of this, consumers aren't aware of it, which is a bit of a sin, is the intermediary, the panel manager. They're the people that are causing a lot of distortion and problems. And the blame, I don't do blame, but if I'm going to point a finger at someone, it's the people that are taking money out of the process. Yeah, taken away from the lawyer, so they have to do higher caseloads. And it's the law firm owners, for frankly, being chicken and going, well, if I don't take that work, I won't have any work to do. So that's where the problem lies. And we've been talking about this for years. Years and years and years. And that is a big part of the problem. So as a consumer, you might be paying £1,000, but how much is going to the lawyer? That's a good question. Yeah, how much is going to the lawyer? Because if it's only 300 quid of it, they're going to have to do 3 times the now of someone who's being paid a proper fee.
Yeah, but again, and I've dealt with lots of lawyers, particularly this year, where they've been the high volume ones, and again, not going to mention any names whatsoever, but a couple of them have actually been detrimental to the transaction going through, and I can be as bold to say that in those instances it was the lawyer, because it was negligence on their part. But
I do hear people say I do have to be skeptical a little bit. I do hear some agents going, that guy, I saw someone the other day, I'm never working with that company again. They cost me that deal. Did they?
9 times out of 10, they probably didn't.
They probably
didn't do their job properly, which is then costing the deal.
Yes,
because they found something, or there was an issue.
There was probably a problem. Yeah.
So I think it is a bit unfair, but there have been a few instances where so I'm not going to go into detail on them either. But again, this is why obviously we really enjoy working with you guys, because again from a case management perspective, it's great. From our perspective, we get the milestone reports come through. They're brilliant. They're absolutely superb. It's a touch point for a client. So right, okay, we just found out this has been done. That's been done, and that it keeps those channels of communication going, and it keeps the client in the loop.
I mean, it does take effort. I mean, it does, and that's the other thing, is that firms have to look at themselves and go, well, how are we doing it today? And just because they did it the same, I mean, my personal view is, from people I've interviewed, nothing's changed in 20 years. I mean, it genuinely hasn't.
No, as far as
I mean, if you wandered up the high street here in Guildford, I mean, heaven forbid, and you just found your way in a lawyer's office, I think you'd be quite shocked at how it hasn't changed.
Oh God, yeah.
I genuinely think so.
Still, there's some that I've heard still have fax machines.
Oh yeah.
Whatever one of those is.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Well, the funny thing is,
they still use it.
Absolutely.
Still use it. And I wait for fax to come through. Sorry, what?
Well, dictation.
Yeah, absolutely.
So many people doing dictation.
The file is in dictation.
It's not uncommon.
It's got to be reread and signed.
It's not uncommon. Yeah.
Well, it's a funny old archaic process that we've got, but look, it is the process.
It is the process. And what I would say at this point is, it's not broken.
No.
It's very trendy at the moment. People say conveyancing process is broken. It's not broken at all. Okay. House buying, they've even got a government department now to set up the house buying and selling group. And I do want to make that very clear, because it's just a bit slow and a bit awkward, but it works and it protects people. Typically, people buy houses. It's quite safe to buy houses here.
Well, that's the thing, and as I say, I think from a consumer perspective, I think consumers just need to be a bit more, slightly more well educated. But from the outset, again, we talk about expectation management an awful lot, but I think it's such a critical thing, because that's something which I always make sure I go through with a client. When we're talking about every process of a transaction, marketing, negotiation, sales progression, etc., is actually managing an expectation almost from a under promise over deliver perspective, rather than saying, I reckon we can do this in 4 weeks' time.
It's no point. You just can't. Even we had someone last week. I can get it by Christmas. No, it's not going to happen. No, they were instructing us. Instructing us last week. I can get it done by Christmas. No, you can't. No. Oh, what? I'll go somewhere that will. I get mine.
Oh yeah. Can you let us know who it is?
We'll get them on board now.
Exactly. So, right. Well, I think we've obviously taken a fair bit of our lovely viewers' time now, and I've really enjoyed this, because it's not very often that, from an agent's perspective, we get to sit down and have these kind of chats with the solicitor, of a big firm that that we, as I say, we thoroughly enjoy working with you already. But I think it's good from a consumer perspective for people to see and hear it, as I say, from the horse's mouth, because it's all very easy to point blame at the moment which is quite frankly what a lot of agents are doing. But I've really enjoyed it. I think it's given me a better insight, in fairness, into the goings on, and we're going to make this a regular thing, aren't we? Where we'll have a catch up every few weeks and have a new topic of discussion.
Absolutely.
So we'll us next time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it can be your turn next time. But for those that have watched, thank you very, very much. Sorry, looking at the wrong camera. If you do have any questions, even if you're watching this, when it's after we've finished and we're not live, please pop them in the comments. We will come back to you, or send you a direct message, or send us a direct message as well. And if it's anything that's more sort of lawyer specific, we'll obviously get Peter in touch with you as well. But thank you very, very much for watching. We hope you've enjoyed it. It's been informative for you. We've had a great time.
Yeah, certainly have.
And thank you very much for having us over. But for now, thank you very much indeed, everyone.
Cheers, guys. Thanks for watching.
And we'll see you all soon.
Thank you, Peter, for joining us.
Thank you.
It's been awesome.
Brilliant.
Pleasure.
Thanks very much indeed.